As demand for UNC Charlotte education continues to grow, so does this remarkable campus. Despite the tough economy, various sources of funding make the expansion possible. Recently, we sat down with Chancellor Phil Dubois for insight into the projects that include the emerging football stadium and the new Energy Production Infrastructure Center, or EPIC.
The money for buildings comes from a variety of different places, and you can't necessarily interchange them. We talk about this as the color of money problem. All money is not green. And so for that reason, sometimes we appear to doing some things, and yet we're cutting our budget, and people wonder, well, why is that? And it's just because of the way in which money works within not just the University of North Carolina, but most public higher education institutions. Because it takes about 5 years from the time, for example, if the legislature appropriates money for a building like they did for Center City, like they did for the EPIC building, like they did for bioinformatics, it takes about 5 years to move to actually opening the doors. And so people will wonder, well, how can you be doing this? And it just takes a long time to do things. And during the same period, we could be suffering multiple millions of dollars of loss in our operating revenues, which is what, in fact, just happened. And then we have some things that aren't dependent really on the state, and that we have to do either way, and they don't come from state funds. And a good example is residence halls. We have a growing student body, but we also have an aging stock of some residence halls. And those are all paid from the rents that students pay or the dining charges that students and others pay when they go into those dining facilities. So some things are going to go on no matter what's happening within the operating budget of the university that we get from the state. EPIC has been one of the most important buildings we've ever built. It was really maybe the first that we built consciously in partnership with industry. Now the dollars have come significantly from the state, $77 million to build the building, $5 million for faculty and technical staff, but industry has already stepped up with about $15 million worth of scholarships, professorships, and equipment, and we expect more of that to come. But as Charlotte has grown as the energy hub that it is becoming, we wanted to be a part of that, thought we needed to be a part of it, and so did industry. For the insiders, they know that this region has become so important to motorsports, particularly NASCAR. They know that motorsports is a $6 billion industry in this state, and unfortunately at the time we made the decision to build the addition, that's when NASCAR got hit with the recession as well. But I'm very optimistic that they'll be coming back. And of course, we don't just train people for NASCAR. We train them for the motorsports industry as it's defined across the country, including American-built automobiles. And so they get their degree in mechanical engineering with an emphasis or concentration in motorsports. No one from UNC Charlotte is limited just to the motorsports degree. They're really more broadly trained in mechanical engineering with that emphasis or concentration in the field. Certainly with football coming and it being placed right there in the middle of all that other activity, and with the thought that light rail is coming by 2016, 2017, I don't think there's any question that for many members of the public who don't come to UNC Charlotte day in and day out, that's the side of the campus they will see. Now I hope after the football game they'll wander over to the bookstore and spend a few dollars and those kinds of things. But yeah, that's going to be the case. Now football has been a real partnership funding. The students pay about half the cost of the construction through the student debt fee that they agreed to pay. And then the rest comes from ticket sales and 49er seat licenses and private gifts and the like. So it's going to be a real partnership to build that stadium and then run the football program with support from every hand we can get. Both of those kinds of things depend on user fees. We are not allowed to use state appropriations for parking decks. So the people who pay for the parking decks are the users who buy the permits or the daily permits. We don't even get to keep the fine money from enforcement. We keep a little bit by state law for administration. About 80% of the fine income, the money that people have to pay for violating the parking regulations, go to the public schools. So I try to tell people we're not making money by dishing out tickets. We're actually losing money on trying to enforce a parking system. But we needed to get a better parking system. We were using an awful lot of land on trying to accommodate all the cars that were coming with these new students, faculty, and staff. And unfortunately, those parking fees continue to go up at a time when our faculty and staff have not had raises for the last, well, now 4 years, going into our 5th year. So that's a tough one. The residence halls will get paid for by the students who live there, and our challenge is to make those quality of buildings built to state standards that will last, let's say, 40 or 50 years, and yet still be competitive from a financial standpoint with what's being built around the neighborhood. Our applications for next year, for the fall of 2012, are up 16% at the freshman level. And they're especially up from out-of-state students. So we continue to see escalating numbers of students who want to come to the UNC Charlotte and who are more qualified than the class before them.